Hi, today we're going to explore how three poets created the Italian language: Dante Alighieri, Francesco Petrarch, and Giovanni Boccaccio. Compared to its Western counterparts like France and Spain, Italy was unified relatively late, in 1861. Up until the 1950s, 80% of people in Italy spoke a local dialect as their first language. Before Italian became the standardized language of Italy, the peninsula was a patchwork of regional dialects, which were influenced by Greek, Hebrew, Arabic, Spanish, and French, and of course, Latin. Each metropole had its own dialect. Like Venetian was so popular and so prevalent that it was spoken all over the Adriatic, including right along the coast of what is now Croatia. Let's look at Spanish, also known as Castilian or Castellano. The medieval kingdom of Castile was a powerful Christian state in the Iberian Peninsula. The first written standard of the Castilian language was established in the 13th century by King Alfonso X, who promoted its use in official documents and literature. King Alfonso X was King Ferdinand of Aragon's uncle, and King Ferdinand II married Isabella de Castillo in 1469, and this marriage unified the kingdom, which led to the creation of the Spanish state. And they had a successful reign. They saw the completion of the Reconquista, or the conquest of Granada in 1492. And the newly formed state of Spain adopted Castilian as the official language for administration and governance, which solidified its status. So it was a language from the Madrid area, or the area where the kingdom of Castile was, that just was eventually made lingua franca of a state. Italian was completely different. But how did we get from the diverse dialects to the Italian that we hear today? It all started with three literary giants. Dante Alighieri wrote La Divina Commedia in his dialect, which happened to be Florentine or Florentine. He spoke a vernacular form of a Tuscan dialect. But when he wrote his epic poem, he decided that he was going to pick the best sounding words from the local dialects that he knew and create his own vocabulary, his own lexicon. And he didn't change syntax, but he played with it like most poets do. Of course, he was very aware of sound. In fact, there's a statue of him holding a lira or a lyra in Florentine, because, of course, most poets were in fact musicians, and they all played with sound. Vowels are produced with an open vocal tract, meaning there's no significant constriction or closure in the mouth, throat, or larynx. This allows the air to flow freely from the lungs through the vocal cords and out of the mouth. Consonants, on the other hand, are produced with a constriction or a closure at one or more points along the vocal tract. This restriction affects how the air flows, and it creates characteristic sounds of consonants. I just love the relaxed movement of the jaw when we pronounce the vowel A. Don't judge me for it, or do, I don't care. I have a favorite punctuation mark too. It's the dash. the end dash. If you know, you know. Poetry lovers probably do. But let's go back to how when Dante did this, when he wrote his epic poem, not only did he collect words that sounded beautiful from all the dialects that he knew from around the region of the peninsula, he also used an abundance of vowels, creating this relaxed, beautiful sound. His work influenced a lot of poets that followed him, including Boccaccio. Boccaccio, who later renamed La Divina Commedia La Divina Commedia. Boccaccio and Petrarch were friends, and Petrarch's contribution to the Italian language created what we know as melody. In 1304, Francesco Petrarca was born in the Tuscan town of Arezzo. And when he wrote his poems, later to be known as canzonieri, which could also be related to music or songs, took the vocabulary Dante had already combined and created, and then he added melody to it. He created a stress system, which later became known as an iambic pentameter. Is a rhythmic pattern that consists of 10 syllables per line, with altering stressed and unstressed syllables. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Which Shakespeare loved. You might be familiar with it if you read his sonnets. This stress system creates melody. Petrarch's importance is key because in the 15th century, a Venetian named Pietro Bembo decided that Petrarch had written the most exquisite Italian anyone had ever created. And he used Petrarch's work as the standard for modern Italian. Bembo was a cardinal, and he was also secretary to Pope Leo X. Pope Leo X was born Giovanni di Lorenzo de' Medici in December 11th, 1475. He was part of the powerful house of Medici. Cardinal Bembo wrote his most famous work, Prose della Volgar Lingua, Discussions of Vernacular, and in it he elevated the Italian language to the same meter as Latin. He explained that art and philosophy could be expressed in this new language, which Dante Alighieri had called Italian. Bembo was into sound like all the other poets before him, and he talked a lot about the quality of composition and about finding the perfect balance between light and heavy sounds, which gives melody to the words and sentences. So we have this abundance of vowel, and then we have melody, and then we have Italian, which is prose and poetry in one language. I simply adore Italian. Alessandro Manzolini, the writer of the first modern Italian novel, I Promessi Sposi, The Betrothed, created in 1827, said that he was going to wash his book in the river Arno, which is the water that cuts between Florence and Arezzo, where the poets used to live in Tuscany. So, Italian was actually created by poets, and it continues to inspire poets today, not only Shakespeare and Edgar Allan Poe, but everyone who's ever encountered this beautiful language. I intend to study a bit more with time, now that I have my copies of these beautiful works, is one of the remaining pieces of works of the Black Plague. So it is important not only linguistically but historically. If you're an Italian mutt like me and you're trying to learn Italian, I so recommend that you get this book. It is one of the most translated books in the world. It's one of the most translated books in the world, and of course it's a children's classic, which means the language, especially in these new editions, is easy and understandable. It's accessible. It's told in small tales, so you can read stories, on a daily basis. And I would suggest that you find a YouTube channel that has an Italian native from a city that you want to learn the accent from, so that you can have them read it as you read along. Italian is a phonetic language, as we say, which means what you see is what you get, unlike English and French. But you still want to learn how to announce the words correctly in the accent that you're most interested in. I personally love the Roman accent, but that's just because I'm biased. A lot of people have a Tuscan accent, which is got a very different way to pronounce C. Ask them to pronounce Coca-Cola and you'll know what I mean. But I hope you liked this video. If you stayed this far, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.